YouTube, another day in flatbed heaven. I must say, man, I just wanted to, I want to tell y'all something, man, that I learned again. And the reason I say I learned it again because when I initially learned it, I didn't really put it to use because I didn't think it pertained to to what I was doing. So Monday, I I was sitting in line waiting to get unloaded. I was sitting in line waiting to get unloaded. A guy comes up to me. He said, "Hey man, what year is your truck?" I said, "It's a 2007." I was looking in my mirror and I seen that there was another Freightliner behind me, another classic. He was like, "Oh, mine's '06." I said, "Oh, okay, so that's your truck." He was like, "Yeah." He said, "What you got in it?" 430s, 475, 435. I said, "I got the 435." I said, it's really not. It's not pulling like I wanted to pull. You know what I mean? I said, I'm going to take it and put it on the dyno, and we're gonna see. I'm gonna see what's going on. He said, "Hold on 1 second." So he holds his hand out, like his palm, and he takes his index finger on his other hand. He started like doodling in his hand. I'm like, what is he doing? He was figuring something up. He says, "So if you got a 435, then what you got to the wheels is probably about 370, 380, if my math is right." I'm like, huh? She's like, "Yeah." He said the horsepower for the motor is what's at the flywheel. Once it goes through the drivetrain system and once it gets back to the tires, you lose something. And so later on, I had texted my partner that he's a lot more mechanically inclined than I am, because I'll tell anybody I'm just a parts man. A part go out and someone diagnose and say, "Oh yeah, that's the part," I'll snatch it out. But he was like, "Yeah, it's like 15%, maybe 10% or something like that." So I did the calculation at 15%. So 15% of 435 was like 372. And I was like, huh? Are you serious? So I said it's just one lesson that I relearned, but it's two lessons. So before I even got this truck, or before I even bought a truck, obviously I did my research. I watched all the videos I could. I went to all the forums that I could go to learn stuff. And so two of the biggest things that they talked about was, one, make sure that your truck is set up for the type of trucking that you're going to do. And two, it's better to have more horsepower and not need it than to have less horsepower and need it. Because if you have less and need more, then obviously you're putting an additional strain on the truck and you're going to burn through more fuel. I failed terribly, right? And I'm gonna tell y'all how I failed. So the guy was telling me, now, he was like, "Yeah, so I got mine turned up to like, 680. So prior to him giving me the 372, the 370 some odd measurement, he told me his truck was like set at 680. So I judged the book by its cover before I even read it. I said, he's one of those truck drivers that's just gonna say something, and it's so outlandish. There's no possible way for it to be true. So anything that he tells me from this point on, it's an asterisk beside it because I'm just not gonna believe it. As long as you believe it, that's all that matters. I'm not gonna believe it. But then when he told me about 370 to 380, which that was his calculation, I said, And the reason I could kind of fact check that is because it was an interview that I watched. I think the channel is Rolling CB Interviews or something like that. And for the longest time, I thought it was a white guy doing it because he sounds like a white guy, but it's really a black guy. If any of y'all have ever watched it, if you haven't watched it, you go watch it. It's cool. So what he does is he goes around and interviews people, with cool trucks. So it was one particular interview that stuck out to me, and this is where I learned the lesson in. It was a guy, he worked on a farm. He was driving his boss's truck because his boss let him drive the truck. So it was a Peterbilt 379. I think he said the engine was like a C-18. And like a C-18 is not like a regular truck motor. It's not a truck motor, but they got it to fit in the truck. And so I want to say that he said it had about 1,300 or 1,400. I may be off, but I know it was over 1,000 horsepower. I know that, and I know it was over 1,200 to the flywheel. He said, but to adjust it some to get it to work on the road and stuff like that with the drive shaft and all that stuff like that. I think he said it may be putting like 1,000 or 1,100 down to the ground. So when I first heard that, I was like, okay, but it didn't stick. It didn't stick. But when this guy told me this, it stuck. So once it goes through the drivetrain and all this stuff, it loses something. So the motor is a 435, true enough, but what you're getting is not 435 horsepower. You're getting 15% less of that. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So like I said, when I, did the truck, and it was like, make sure it's set up to do what type of trucking you're doing. All I did was I said, okay, I got a C-15. It don't matter if I'm hauling cattle. We snatching it. We're not snatching it. We're not snatching it. So then he goes to tell me, he says, Warner Enterprises bought about 400 of these trucks, and in dedication to Dale Earnhardt. I didn't fact check, don't know it to be true. But I always wondered, because in my side door here, it has a sticker, like when you get like an annual DOT inspection, that long sticker, it got Warner Enterprises on it. I never thought anything about it. I didn't think that this truck, back when it was new, was a fleet truck. I didn't think that. So when he told me that, I said, oh, I got a sticker. It says Warner. So this was a Warner truck. So then it sure enough hit me. I said, wait a minute. Warner has a flatbed division, but Warner's really more van operation. So I said, so this truck, brand new, was spec'd to pull dry van and reefer or whatever. So a 435, which actually is a 372 horsepower, versus them trying to preserve the motor, the truck governed at 65 or whatever they were governed at, that made 100% sense to them. So this truck isn't dialed in for flatbed. Hasn't been dialed in for flatbed. I don't know what the previous owners did prior to this, but I know what the truck was spec'd to do now, since he put the pieces of the puzzle together. So that was 372 brand new. This truck is 2007. It's 2021. 14 years later. What are the results I'm going to see Monday? What is that gonna look like? I mean, and then like I say, I know one of my buddies told me I need to get the overhead done. And I'm like, what are they gonna show me? Because I'm paying $450 plus tax. What are the numbers they're gonna show me? Right? So then I got to thinking. I said, okay, well, if I can get the overhead done, I'll get that done. And then I saw like PDI has a programmer, like for CAT. You can plug it up, you can set it up yourself. They got two different programmers. One they got, I think it comes with a like a monitor, and I think it was like $2,500. And then the other one I seen, it was like at $2,000. But from everything I saw, all intents and purposes I saw, PDI is one of the better ones. So I'm like, I gotta get this. if I can safely do it, I don't want to turn it all the way up, because I saw a guy on a site. He said that what he was always told, safely you could turn these engines up to a 455 without having to start like changing stuff around, like just leaving it as it is. You can safely turn it to a 455. So that's what I want to do. I want to do what's within reason. Now, if I change some stuff later on, then hey, sure, shoot it up to the moon. But I just feel like I'm at less than 400 now. So I feel like that if I could get it up to just we at 400 flat or 410, 415 flat, like that's to the wheels. Because 15% less of 435 was like 65 horsepower. But 65 horsepower now. So I just started thinking, what could I do with 65 more horses? So yeah, man. So the lesson for the day, don't judge a book by its cover, even though the cover looks like, you know what, it's going to be full of lies. But anyway, man, let me go. I'm over here east of Atlanta. I got to go get back on 285, fight the traffic. I'll see y'all later on.